Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie, the podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of colonialbook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Very excited. It is May, although you wouldn't know it from where I'm sitting. It's very gloomy and kind of drizzly here in Southern California, but perfect for Mysteries in May. This is our second annual Mysteries in May, and we look, full disclosure, we're busy ladies. That's the thing. We're busy ladies this month and this time of year. Things are happening, things are popping off all over the place. And so we made a little executive decision just before we got on the air that this year for Mysteries in May, we're going to be devoted entirely to the work of the incomparable Mrs. Agatha Christie, who we've talked about before, but we're going to do all Christie adaptations, and very excited to do that. Today is one that I had never read before, but I'd seen an adaptation of it before. I've never read the book. And we've talked about Agatha Christie before. She's got a really fascinating story. We won't go into all of it today since we're going to be talking about her all month long. We'll just talk about some of it today. Probably stuff that's relevant to this particular story. But if you are brand new, we've got a brand new episode that we try to crank out for you every single week. And yeah, sometimes, like I say, sometimes we have times of year that are busier than others. And so we can't always sit down with a good 400-page piece of literature.
A lot of good ones, by the way. We were doing our research, and there's some that we would love to, but it's just with our schedules, we wouldn't be able to put on the show that we would put on for you. It would be just so slapdash.
So we want to have some fun this month with Miss Christie, and I never know whether to call her Miss or Mrs. because Christie is her married name, right? Isn't it her married name?
She got remarried, right?
But then she got remarried. Yeah. And Christie, the husband was not the greatest guy, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so we have lots of room for the rest of the year in our scheduling where we need suggestions for books and movies that we can cover. And I say books, but really we will discuss any movie adaptation from some kind of a literary source, whether that's, again, fiction, nonfiction, magazine article, short story, novella, poem, a song, a play, a musical. We will consider it. We just did musicals in March recently. Doesn't mean we can't do another musical during the year. Just means that's when we kind of focus on that. But if you have suggestions of movie adaptations you would like us to cover, if you'd like to meet other listeners of this podcast or interact with us, there are several places where you can do that on the internet.
We do have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. The episodes are posted there pretty much as soon as we put the episodes out. But we're much more interactive in our private Facebook group. So you type in Book VS Movie Podcast Group and ask to join. And we do just talk about books and movies there. It's a nice, safe space to hang out. I know we managed to do that. We're on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Book versus N Movie. And those places you spell it all out. And then we have an old-timey email, Book versus Movie Podcast, spell it all out, at gmail.com, and send us your suggestions. And if you would like some stickers, give us your address and one of us will drop them in the mail for you.
And if you really enjoy the show and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
Patreon. We've been doing the show for 10 years now. So everything from 8 years and previous to that, we're putting on our Patreon wall. The old episodes are free, and all the clips we show today are for free on Patreon, by the way. But for those of you that do sign up, you get some really cool things. Like we just put out The Postman Always Rings Twice. That's now only on Patreon. Coming up, Raise the Red Lantern, Mulan, Joy Luck Club. They are all coming up because for the AAPI month we did a couple of years ago. So thank you to everybody that helps us there. It just helps. Seriously, it's just the cost for the show of just like the books and the movies and the internet, that kind of thing.
Seriously, it's just that. And frankly, as long as you're here, we're happy. We
Exactly.
love that you're here. We love that you tell people about the show. It really means a lot. And we started the show. We talk about this from time to time, but the whole reason we started this show was that 10 years ago, boy, it was a different world, wasn't it?
We were fitness bloggers. You remember
We
that?
were fitness bloggers.
That's how we
And
met.
I know. And we were both lamenting that we weren't reading more, and and I gotta say, we fixed that problem. And it took me quite a while going, it's only been, let me think, maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe since COVID, that I finally decided to, like, "Oh, maybe I should keep a running log of all the books I read every year." Which is kind of interesting to see as I reflected, because I don't know about you, Margot. People often, when they find out about the show or if they know about the show, I'm their go-to person for book recommendations,
Yeah.
right? And people are always like, "Oh, what have you must read a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. Well, what's a great book I can read?" And so whenever they ask me that and put me on the spot, I blank out. So having my running list, and I give everything a rating. And all of this is to say, one of my favorite books that I read last year was by one of my favorite historians ever, Lucy Worsley. And she wrote an absolutely terrific biography of Agatha Christie. It's called Agatha Christie, An Elusive Woman. And the audiobook is excellent. I have both the audiobook and the paperback, because it is such a fascinating life, and an unlikely one for who she was. And as I said, we will just talk about, some of the broad strokes here. This is the first one of the month, but we were not going to go into tremendous detail because we have the luxury of coming back and revisiting some details as the month rolls out. But let's hit the broad strokes of Dame Agatha Mary Clarissa Christie, aka Lady Malawan, nay Miller.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I like my Wikipedia is not. Oh, here it is. It's on the other side of my screen. She was born September 15th, 1890, in Devon, England. She lived to be 85. She died in 1976. Notable works are Murder of the Orient Express, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, Death on the Nile. She's written over 66 novels. She her life is just so fascinating. She's one of the first women to go surfing in Australia. She's somebody who's traveled quite a bit. She had a very problematic first marriage, and she disappeared for a while, so that was also part of her story. But she came back. She never really explained it. I'm sure Margot could tell us from her book. She did wind up, she was married to Archibald Christie, and they divorced in 1928. She married Max Mallowan in 1930. They have a child, Rosalind Hicks, and she's one of the most revered writers and most successful writers. And that's the thing that I was like looking at over here. It's 14 short stories, 66 novels. She has sold more than 1 billion copies in English and translations, and second only to the Bible and Shakespeare. And this 1941 is when this book comes out, and this is a very prolific time in her life, and she is just it's just spectacular. And what did you think?
I loved this story, and we should have mentioned also she was, in addition to all of that you just rattled off, which any one of those accomplishments, who wouldn't want that? Um, she was also a prolific playwright, and the
Right. Yes.
the playwright of the longest running play in world history, The Mousetrap.
The Mousetrap.
Um, and she was supposed to have been a nice upper class lady who got married and raised some children and had servants and puttered around in her garden. But she had an extraordinary life. Her second husband was very interested in archaeology,
Mhm.
and she traveled with him all over the world, uh, and was brought all of her experiences into her work. And yeah, I had seen the television adaptation of this story, but I had never read it until this week. And it's interesting because the last year when we did Mysteries in May, we talked about Death on the Nile, which has some very similar elements and devices to this particular story. I forget how many years apart those two stories are, but bear in mind, Agatha Christie is a woman who, as we said, like, she was never broke.
Right.
you know, she was never like, she wasn't like darning socks and saving bacon grease or anything, anything of the kind. But she's somebody who grew up, upper middle class, if not downright wealthy, at the end of the 19th century, at the end of the Gilded Age. She lives through two world wars. She serves in the First World War, and that's where she serves as a in the pharmacists, and so that's where she kind of learns about poisons and things like that. But she sees a massive, development of technology and women's roles, and yeah, just um geography, really, what this woman experienced in what she really packed it in to one lifetime is what I'm saying. And this story, like I said, she it's there are definitely a lot of like Christie devices at work here. I'm not mad at it. I'm enjoying it. People just love her books. And what's interesting to me about an Agatha Christie novel, and she just cranked these out. She used to crank out a mystery every single year. And she also wrote non-mystery novels under the name of Mary Westmacott. And I recently started one of those called Absent in the Spring, which is very good. First of all, she writes in a way that just grabs you. She it's not hoity-toity. She just somehow manages to plunk you right into that world. And at this point, it's definitely a nostalgia piece. She's taking advantage of the nostalgia for the jazz age.
Yes.
She wrote during the jazz age, but this story takes place during that time, but it's for a much, more mature or developed audience. Now, uh we have our wonderful detective. She also created some of the most popular characters in literature. Even one of these would be quite the accomplishment. Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. Hercule Poirot, we've talked about a couple of times. We did Death on the Nile last year, as I said, and we also did Murder on the Orient Express some time
We
ago,
also
a few
covered,
years ago.
it was a Christmas one that we did too for the holidays
Oh
one year,
yes,
and it was David Suchet, and it was very popular, one of ours.
I love. Well, we'll talk about David
Well,
Suchet in a
yeah.
minute. So one of the great things about her work, not just that it's accessible, not just that it's fun and interesting, it's got great dialogue, and it's fun to figure out the mystery as you're going along. You cannot help yourself as the reader to like looking for clues. But somehow her work, even though you know what's going to happen, even though you've read it, you could read it again. You It's fun to go back and read her works again and again and again, even though it's a mystery. You would think it would be spoiled for you. You wouldn't. Why would you go back and read it again? Like, I knew from the adaptation that I had seen some time ago, I knew how the story more or less played out. I knew who done it, but I really enjoyed this book nevertheless.
My mother was a huge fan of mysteries and had a complete collection of Agatha Christie and had her very specific ones she would lend to me. She's like, you can't keep this. Of course I did. I wound up keeping them, and thank God I did. But she had the same thing. Like, and my dad would say to her, like, you already know. And she had them on books on tape. She had everything. And it was like,
They're so
she just,
fun.
they were fun. She just liked her jib. She liked the cut of her jib. She liked the way she told the story.
And also you learn a lot about human nature and um the things that we all grapple with. Very often the characters are wealthy. So it's also fun in that regard. It's not just it's partially the escapism, but also poking fun and showing the emptiness of that kind of existence. It's not all it's cracked up to be. One thing that I don't know if this is something that I have to think it was something that she kind of set as an intention, and the family, the people in charge of her estate have done a really good job of stewarding, is that whenever you see an adaptation of Agatha Christie's work, and there are countless adaptations all over the world, she's globally famous. They always, whenever they adapt the original work, they always change certain elements. So even if you've read the book and you know it backwards and forwards, when you're watching the adaptation, um, there's going to be new fun things, changing characters around, or doing composites of
Combining
people.
characters.
Yeah,
Yes.
combining characters a lot. For instance, for this week, I watched not just the Peter Ustinov one that we're going to be talking about, but I watched the David Suchet one.
Is it on BritBox? Is that where you got
Yeah,
it?
it's on BritBox. It is delightful, by the way. Although I kind of like, spoiler alert, I kind of like the Peter Ustinov one a little bit better. But in the David Suchet one, for instance, um, the child character is a girl in the book and a boy in the David Suchet version, and you see stuff like this all the time. And how the different premises for why people are in the location, they play around with that. Uh, so let's talk about Evil Under the Sun. First of all, it's a very intriguing title,
Yes.
right? You can imagine seeing it you're going to snatch that Agatha Christie novel up off the bookseller's shelf. You sure are, with a title like Evil Under the Sun.
It comes
And
out in June of 1941, which is, considering what's going to be happening in the world, it's kind of wild. I mean, our Hercule Poirot is on vacation, and he's in Devon. He's in the English, uh, seaside, and he's at a hotel, and he notices that it's a secluded hotel, and there's some very exciting characters that are staying at this hotel, and he's chatting up people. And there's a woman that's named Arlena Marshall, and she is a former actress, and she's flirting with a man named Patrick Redfern. And even though they're both married to other people,
mhm,
but so there's a woman that runs the hotel. There's a father and daughter, and
mhm.
then Arlene is with them. She's married to him, and she has a
But he has a
16-year-old
stepdaughter.
stepdaughter.
Yes.
So that's not her daughter; it's her stepdaughter. This is like his second marriage. He lost his wife a couple of years before. Then we have Patrick and his wife, and his wife is somebody who comes across as very mousy, and he comes across as very dashing. He's Irish and very bold in his actions. And then we have, what are the names? I'm sorry, the other people.
We have a couple of, and these are not in the,
Yeah,
again, when we
sorry.
get to the film, there's some changes,
Yeah.
but in the novel, there's an American couple, the Gardeners, Carrie and Odell, and in the book, they're just tourists, and Carrie is a busybody who talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. The whole thing throughout the novel, whenever the gardeners show up, is Carrie goes blobbity 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 blah. I was just saying blobbity blobbity blah, 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 blah. Isn't that right, Odell, her husband? And he says, "Yes, darling." And then she goes, and he says, yes, darling. It's very, very funny. They are very much the comic relief of the story. We have a character who had shown up, I think, in a previous Poirot story, named Rosamund Darnley.
Right. She's dressmaker.
She's
And
a
she
dressmaker.
right. And Kenneth Marshall, like they had a fling a while
In
ago.
their
They were
youth.
sweethearts
Yes.
and they're the
Yes.
youth. Yeah, there's Emily Brewster. She's a spinster that rose daily. We have also some police chief. There are more police people in this story than there are in
There
the
are quite a
movie.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
quite a few of them. And then so those are I think those are like mostly we have the Mrs. Castle. She's owns the hotel.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there is
So
a reverend.
there's a reverend who, like, we're not sure. Is he recovering from a nervous breakdown? There's something not quite right with the reverend. Um, but it's a lot of people. We have a lot of stuff going on
It's a
in this.
lot of
It's a lot to
characters.
keep track of.
Yeah.
And so, like in a lot of Christie works, there's a lot of romance and secrets and clues being dropped all over the place and maids overhearing things, you know. So Poirot, just like in Death on the Nile, Poirot, like he always, he's like, oh, I'm just here on vacation. Which he's never just there on vacation. Spoiler alert, like he's never, ever, ever. Um, he's there to meet up with some, I can't remember if it's Colonel Weston or Inspector Colgate, but he's there to meet up with a law enforcement officer who is seeking his advice on a stolen jewel, I think it was.
Mhm.
And they kind of settle that matter pretty early in the book. And then we kind of don't think about it again. There's also, so Arlena is the center of everything. Arlena, this recently retired movie star. She's very famous. She's very glamorous. She, in the book, we learn that nobody really knows the circumstances, but somehow this much, much older millionaire left everything he owns to this movie star. And nobody knows quite why. They weren't married. So she's very wealthy in her own right, although her husband, I forget what number husband he is, Mr. Marshall, and his daughter. Mr. Marshall is also quite well off. And she's definitely flirting with Patrick Redfern. And Patrick's wife accuses him in front of everybody, accuses him of choosing this location for their vacation because he knew that Arlena was going to be there. So they've met before, and we're to believe that they've had a flirtation before. Because Arlena's not at all surprised to see Patrick Redfern there. So all throughout the beginning of the book, Patrick and Arlena are going off adventuring. They're frolicking on the beach. They're going for a swim. They're in the paddle boats, playing tennis, all of that. Meanwhile, his wife, Christine, who's this, again, frail little mousy little thing, like, oh, I can't go out in the sun. I'll burn up.
I'll burn up. I'm an Irish
I,
girl. I can't.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like her whole thing. Like I can't handle
Yeah.
the heat. I can't handle direct sunlight. So she's constantly putting extra clothes on herself. She's, wrapping herself up. And she's also just pretending that she's, we'll find out, as she goes along, but she's always saying that she's very frail. And then also she and Poirot, she tells him that she has vertigo and that so she can't
go down the cliffs.
Very high.
Yeah.
She can't go down the cliffs. She can't go downstairs very quickly. I have vertigo, so I understand like what she's talking about. So she's trying to just paint herself as like, oh my God, I'm the wounded bird. My husband just flirts with this gorgeous 40-something ex-movie star, stage star, or whatever she is at this point.
And everyone feels sorry for her.
Everyone does, yes.
Everyone feels sorry for Mrs. Redfern, and everyone, because she clearly loves her husband, and her husband is acting a fool and chasing this movie star, and knowing that that's never going to go anywhere. So meanwhile, talking about, so Poirot is overhearing things, and other people are overhearing things, and among the things that get overheard is supposedly that Christine overhears Arlene on the phone with someone who appears to be blackmailing her, someone who is demanding money of her. And I forget if she tells Poirot, don't quite remember. Anyway, so that's one of the things that happens. And then one day, Emily Brewster, who is the spinster, she's the athletic spinster. So she's very sporty, and she's there for her health, and she likes all the outdoor activity at this resort.
And Poirot, by the
Sandy
way,
Cove, I
never
think.
does.
He never does.
He's
He's
overweight.
indoorsy.
He's indoorsy. He likes food. He likes things the way he likes things, and he likes
Mhm.
sweets and his things. And so these two are like oil and water. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Emily Brewster is coming back from like a brisk bicycle ride or something like that, and is almost brained by a flying glass bottle that just misses her and shatters into a zillion pieces as she's walking back up to the resort. And she immediately goes to Mr. Poirot and says, like, somebody's trying to kill me. And they hurled a bottle at me and tried to kill me. And he's like, okay, I'll check it out, I guess, And so he, just to humor her, he goes and he finds, picks up some pieces of this broken bottle. And then Patrick Redfern shows up and he's like, whoa, has anybody seen Mrs. Marshall, who's the movie star? Has anybody seen Mrs. Marshall around? And they're like, nope, nobody's seen her. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just go for a little sail around the island then. Miss Brewster, again, the spinster, Miss Brewster, you want to come with me? And she's like, yeah, okay. So they go out on the water, and Miss Brewster realizes, like, oh, he's looking for Arlena. He's not just out for like a fun sail around the island for exercise like I am. Like, oh, great. I got roped into this. And so they go sailing around the island, and there they see Arlena sunbathing on the beach with her hat over her face, as I have done countless times.
Millions of
That's
times, yes.
that's how I lie on the beach, is with my hat on my face.
Right.
And Patrick jumps out of the little paddle boat and he runs over to Arlene, leaving Emily Brewster back in the boat. And he's talking to her and she's not moving. And he lifts up the hat and he says, oh my gosh, she's dead. She's been murdered. She's been strangled. And somebody has to get the police. And he says to Emily, you stay here. I'll go get the police. She's like, I'm not staying here with this dead body. Are you kidding me? What if there's some maniac still around? I'll go get the police. You stay here. He's like, okay, fine. So she goes and tells everybody, she's screaming back to the resort and telling everybody, and they alert the police, and the police come, and they go, and sure enough, Arlene's lying there. She's strangled, and she appears to have been strangled by somebody with big, powerful hands, big man hands.
Right.
And who could possibly have done it? Well, not Patrick Redfern. That's the most logical suspect, because they were having a thing. Nope, not him, because he had an alibi. He was with Emily Brewster showing up on the boat. Everybody has an alibi, as often happens in Agatha Christie. Everyone has some kind of an alibi. Somebody saw them somewhere where they couldn't possibly have committed the murder. Mrs. Redfern, who's the other obvious suspect, because she would be jealous of her husband flirting with this glamorous movie star. Her alibi is that at the time of the murder, she was down on the beach with Arlena's stepdaughter, with Linda. And she was painting, she was doing watercolor. That's her thing that she does, Christine. And she asked Linda at one point what time it is. Linda says, oh, it's 5 minutes to 12. And Christine says, oh no, I'm supposed to meet the gang for tennis at noon. I've got to go. And she leaves Linda there swimming. And she runs up to the hotel, and then she shows up at noon on the tennis court in her tennis whites, just like she's supposed to, right on time. She just makes it. So she has an alibi. And everybody has an alibi. Mr. Marshall, who is the other obvious suspect, Mr. Marshall was typing away I can't remember what he was typing. He was typing something. He's typing in his room.
Right.
And typewriters are loud. And so the maid has overheard him typing and typing and typing. So he that's his alibi, is that he was busy in his room typing. And the maid, when she's questioned, also mentions that when she heard Mr. Marshall typing, she also heard somebody taking a bath, and it had struck her that that was an odd time for somebody to take a bath in the middle of the day like that. That was unusual. The gardeners have their alibi. Everybody has an alibi.
Mhm.
So now what? But we've got a body.
Right.
So Poirot and the police go and inspect the beach because there's footprints in the sand, and they follow the footprints around. It appears that Arlena was strangled inside a nearby cave. And they look around the cave, and Poirot can smell her perfume in there, so she definitely was in there. And he sees footprints, and he follows the footprints in the cave, and they stumble upon a a box of heroin.
There's a whole heroin subplot that's
There's
in
a
the book
whole heroin
that's
subplot
not,
that's not, yeah, that's not
which
in
I
this
don't think
movie.
they needed, but myself,
Oh, it's
but
fine to, yeah, it's
yeah.
a lot, and it's partly to confuse the reader, right? Against, like, because you're like, "Oh, okay, heroin," and the police are like, "Well, that's it, either she was on heroin or she stumbled upon, um, whoever, was hiding heroin here, like, obviously, this is the heroin hidey hole, and, either she came in to get some or she found somebody with theirs, and they they had to take her out." So then we have a lot of fun of Poirot, we have the whole fun middle part of the book where Poirot questions everybody and they all give their version of where they were and what they thought. Linda, the stepdaughter who hated Arlene also, and everybody hates her. Like certainly all the women hate her.
Yeah.
Everybody but Patrick and her husband even isn't that crazy about her because she's so terrible to him. And Linda really hates the way that Arlene has treated her father and just doesn't like her. And we learn that Linda, who's kind of not the sharpest knife in the drawer, let's say. Not the
She's
brightest.
she's a little mousy.
She's a
She's a
little mousy.
little insecure, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she lost her mom. Her
Yeah.
dad marries this jerk off who just
Kind of
treats her really
soon.
badly. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't waste
And
any time.
and they kind of also put it in there because she's in her adolescence and she's really upset. They kind of make it like, well, she could have just gone psycho because she's an adolescent, you see. And
Yeah.
that
She's a
could have done.
teenage girl.
Right.
We learn also, though, that she had gone to the mainland and gone to the library and checked out some books about, was it voodoo? Something like that. So she's dabbling in the dark arts.
She was looking
And
for spells.
yeah, and she has convinced herself, because she's a teenage girl, she's convinced herself that somehow her dabbling in the dark arts has led to, Arlena's demise, even though she herself, like, never laid a hand on the woman, and was
Yeah.
just reading some books. Come on. So
Word only possible, Linda.
yeah. No, Poirot is not buying that for a moment, and he reassures Linda. Poirot has a soft spot for young people, which I always
Yes.
really love in his books. He really has just a big softy when it comes to kids, and so he really reassures Linda, like, that's cute, but no, there's no way that you possibly could have done this crime. First of all, your hands are tiny. Secondly, like, that's not what she died from, and so he's very, very sweet with her, and that's always fun. Um, and then, of course, he questions the Americans. That's hilarious. She talks and talks, doesn't let him say anything but "Yes, darling." Uh, and eventually, when Poirot at some point asks asks to him. He says like it's too. Um, he says it's too, like, as you English say, slick, this crime. Like, it's too slick. I think whoever did this is not like a clumsy crime of passion.
Right.
Somebody really, really, really planned this. And maybe they did it before. So I'm going to look at other cases like this, other strangling cases or that are maybe unsolved. And just, to help me kind of think about it, he says. And so he orders some other case files so he can study them, and as he's trying to mull this all over. And so we're going to spoil everything, by the way,
Yes,
if you've
yes.
never
By the
read
way,
this. So he comes to the conclusion, and this this one's a little clumsy, I feel like, compared to some of the other Christies, but it's like I say, I'm not mad at it. It's fine. Um, he comes to the conclusion that this crime, where you have a woman who is strangled, um, you have her husband slash lover who has an alibi, and the discovery of the body, like there's some similarities between this case and a case from some years before, the case of a woman named Alice Corrigan. Now, in the case of Alice Corrigan, she was found strangled in the woods by a teacher, like a PE teacher, who happened to be bicycling by, discovered the body, goes screaming into the village. The police come, and the obvious suspect, of course, is Alice Corrigan's. I think it's her fiance, but the fiance is on a train at the time of the death, so he's exonerated, and also he gets all of her money. She's like somehow, I remember if she have a life insurance policy or what, but somehow out of the whole thing, the fiance ends up with all of the money, and nobody is ever caught or convicted for the strangulation of Alice Corrigan. So, um, while he's looking through the case file in the book, the way that he solves it is he's looking through the case file and he sees a photo of the fiance and a photo of the teacher who discovered the body of Alice Corrigan, and realizes that they are, in fact, Patrick and Christine Redfern, or so-called Patrick and Christine Redfern. So Christine is not a frail, little twiggy, you know, uh, um, about to faint at any moment. She is quite an athletic, with a great deal of stamina PE teacher. So perfectly capable of racing herself all over the island, certainly not afraid of heights. That was a ruse. And um, Patrick, we learn that he has somehow, because he has an existing relationship with Arlene, he somehow has swindled Arlene out of that fortune that she got from the millionaire, the much older millionaire. Um, and that kind of blackmail sounding phone call was basically, I don't remember if it was her financial advisor. It wasn't a blackmail thing. It was somebody calling to be like, what happened to all your money? Where's your money? And it turned out she'd been swindled out of it. So I can't remember if like she was about to find out that Patrick had swindled her out of all her money, or her husband was about to find out. And
Right.
so to hide the fact that the money was gone, they plot to kill Arlene. And so here's how they did it. Christine, Christine, whose alibi is that she was swimming with Linda. So, and Linda is, as we've learned, a teenage girl, unreliable, flighty, and emotional. And while Linda, the teenager, is occupied, like getting out of her, her clothes and her swimming costume and whatever, Christine turns her wristwatch ahead 20 minutes, I think it was. So when she asks Linda what time it is to establish her alibi, and Linda says, "Oh, it's 5 minutes to 12." It's not 5 minutes to 12. It's 25 minutes to 12. And then Linda goes into the water. Christine doesn't join her because she's too frail. She can't be out in the sun like that. So,
Right.
so when Linda goes out, Christine turns the watch back to the correct time, races up the cliff because she's a gazelle, she's very strong and athletic and fast, races up to her room and covers her whole body from the neck down with makeup, with body makeup, to make it appear as though she is suntanned. And oh no, maybe she does that before she goes to the beach. Anyway, so she covers herself with makeup. She's covered with suntan makeup, everything but her hands and her face. And oh, that's right, everything but her hands and her face. But then when she runs up after she leaves Linda, she runs up because she's got her body covered up. everything but her hands and her face, as I said. And she races up to the room and finishes off doing the makeup on her hands, leaves her face as is, pasty, and to hide the evidence, hurls the bottle of body makeup out of the window, not realizing that Miss Brewster, the athletic spinster, was down below and that she nearly hit her in the head with this bottle. And Poirot, also Poirot, I think when he was inspecting the bottle, he found like the label of the makeup, or
Mhm.
found like the bottle contained some kind of brown liquid. So she makes up her body, everything but her face, races down to the beach where Arlena is. Arlena, seeing Christine coming down to the beach, is like, oh, this bee. And so she goes to hide from her in the cave. And Christine is calling her to intimidate her and to get her to hide because she wants her to hide in the cave. And I can't remember if she knocks her unconscious. I think she knocks
With the rock, yeah, she
Arlena
knocks,
with a
yeah.
rock. She knocks her unconscious, and then she takes off her overclothes, and she's wearing a bathing suit, and she's got body makeup on to look tan. She grabs Arlena's hat, or she has a duplicate hat, and lies on the beach with a hat on her face and the makeup. And she's a very athletic, well-built lady. She's been hiding her figure under the clothes the whole time. So nobody realizes, like, she's very well built, just like Arlena. And from a distance, same bathing suit, same hat, tan body, could be anybody. So when Patrick runs out of the boat, when he picks up the hat, it's Christine under there. He's hiding her made up face, and he's lying when he says, "Oh, da she's dead." Da 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 da. Meanwhile, she's still very much alive. She's just unconscious in the cave. And he sends Miss Brewster, the athletic spinster, off in the boat for help. And then he proceeds to go in the cave and strangle the life
Strangles
out
her.
of Arlene, strangles her, and they swapsy places. Christine gets her clothes back on. She races back because she can run and she's fast. She races back to her room, takes a bath in the middle of the day to wash off
Wash
all
off
of the
all the body
makeup. That
makeup.
was the unusual bath. And then she's back on the tennis court in her tennis whites, just like she's supposed to be, right on time at noon. And that's how they did it. And um we have we have the big climactic scene like we always do in a Poirot, where he gets everybody in the room and he talks about how, like, you could have done it because of XYZ, and he explains all the scenarios where all the different people could have done it. And then lands on the final one, which is the most obvious one. Who was the most obvious suspect? The Redferns, one of the Redferns, but it turns out it's both of the Redferns. So again, very much like in Death on the Nile, where you have a couple who seem to be um, at odds, but are actually thick as thieves, and they are plotting this murder together. It's a little bit different scenario in Death on the Nile, but I mean, a very similar device where you have the mousy little woman that everybody feels sorry for, but she's actually in cahoots with the cad who is flirting with the glamorous lady who gets killed. And the police are all there, and the police drag him off. And then they also catch it turns out one of the other guests on the island, Mr. Blatt, is the one who's running the heroin smuggling ring, and they also capture him as well for the heroin. The end.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Cannot recommend. Did you listen to the audiobook?
Yes, I did listen to the audiobook.
So good.
It's David Suchet.
Wonderful. He does all the voices. Delightful. Absolutely. Like, if you got a road trip this summer, get you those David Suchet, Agatha Christie audiobooks. You will be so entertained. It will
Oh,
fly by.
oh, that sounds so good. So in 2001, David Suchet does a version and it's for BritBox here. I don't know what it is, of BBC or what was for there. But this is actually in 1982. We have a version, and there were a few. There was a Death on the Nile. There was the Orient Express. There were a few murder mysteries, late 70s, early 80s here in the
Mhm.
States. So this one is directed by Guy Hamilton, and the screenplay is by Anthony Schaefer. and they moved the action to the Mediterranean from Devon. So
Yeah, which is fine.
I love the Mediterranean. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll always go check that out. And so they bring back uh, Peter
Peter
Ustinov
Ustinov.
as
So Poirot, we should say, if you've never read a Poirot book, or you've never, I don't know where you are, but if you've never seen David Suchet, if one of the things I love about Poirot and Christie and Miss Marple, actually, both of these, the hero and heroine always of every book that they're in, is that Christie always gives us wonderful, delicious little details about what they look like and their mannerisms and their little ticks and things that they have. They both do. And Poirot is a very specific, like he's not very tall. People always underestimate him. He's very fastidious and fussy and indoorsy, as we said. And because of that, he's often the figure of fun. He's often funny, unintentionally. People are often like laughing at
amused by
him
him.
and yeah, or yeah, amused by him, but also sometimes just straight up like
Yeah.
mocking him. And if you've ever seen one of the David Suchet Poirot adaptations, like he is precisely to the mustache hair what Agatha Christie describes in the book. But when we talked about Murder on the Orient Express, we had Albert Finney playing the role, and he's very good. He was very good, but he took it a little bit different direction, just a little. He was, I would say, Poirot, as we mentioned, is a bit of a gourmand. He's always got like a little bit of a belly going on. But Albert Finney's Poirot, not so, was a little not quite there, but it was very good. It was still very good, and but he didn't want to come back as Poirot for the follow up, Death on the Nile. They went with Peter Ustinov, who again takes it to his own direction. He's much funnier. He's definitely playing for laughs, but I just love him. He's not the textbook Poirot. He's bigger. For one thing, he's too big. He's got too much hair. But he's not like a fastidious little penguin. He's a much bigger,
He flirts a bit more with people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I just love it. I could watch it all day long. I think he's absolutely delightful as this character. And he really just makes the most of the whole wardrobe. I just love his wardrobe. In this one in particular, because of course in Death on the Nile, they're on this boat the whole time, pretty much. But in this one, we see him outdoors, his various like
He
swimming
designs the
costume.
swim costume that we show at the top of the segment.
It's
I mean,
so
that's his
lovely.
idea, all of it. And it's hilarious. Like he just jogs a bit about in the water and then runs back out. And he's like, oh yeah, I went swimming. He's supposed to lose some weight. And that's one of the reasons why he's supposed to go there. And that's why he's supposed to be swimming. But he's like, what am I doing? No.
Yeah. Or those like pantaloon things he was wearing at one point. I mean, they're just, it's just delightful. He always has that little twinkle in his eye. And underneath it all is a mastermind who is figuring it out and putting all of the pieces together. So in this, let's play the trailer.
Let's play the trailer.
Let's play the trailer. Warning, it's a little long. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, we don't know if they're going to let you see it or not here, but it's easy to find. Here we go.
Bon appétit, Monsieur Poirot.
Merci, Hyacinthe. Oh, I do not think that formal introductions are necessary. Poirot, Hercule Poirot. There are those who have called me the greatest detective of all time, a description with which I find it difficult to quarrel. But even a great detective must at times recharge the little gray cells. And I recently took my vacation on an Adriatic island so remote as to be unknown even to the guide Michelin.
I hope you haven't come here to practice your sleuthing games on my guests. They've all got far too many skeletons in their cupboards.
Arlena is my wife. That's all there is to it.
Till death do you part? Even in those days, she could always throw her legs up in the air, higher than any of us. And wider.
Patrick, aren't you getting a little tired of rowing?
I'm so sorry. We late? Patrick insisted on rowing me right around the island. It's much bigger than you thought, poor darling. He's absolutely exhausted.
Not in the least surprised.
She's been murdered.
What the hell do we do now, Odell?
Just leave it to me.
Do you know what I'm most sick of in this place?
What, madame?
Pity. I can't bear to be pitied.
Oh, my. I'm the last to arrive.
I'm sorry, Sir Horace, but it's my duty to put it to you that you were furious. You lost your temper. You strangled her.
That is poppycock! That is poppycock!
I wish you to consider very carefully a bathing cap, a bath, a bottle, a wristwatch, the diamond, the noonday gun, the breath of the sea, and the height of the cliff.
You just wait. Stay right. Linda, you tell her to tell him the truth.
But with Hercule Poirot, mysteries never last very long. You are skeptical. Well, perhaps you would care to pit your wits against mine. Bonne chance, mes amis.
Okay, I love that over the course of this 3-minute trailer, he has devoured that entire giant dessert, like enough to serve 6 people. How fun is that?
I mean, so in this version, they're leaning into more of her celebrity and her stardom.
Yes.
So
yeah,
we'll go into the characters here. So we have Peter Ustinov, obviously, as Hercule. Colin Blakely as Sir Horace Blatt. He's the person that hires him to look up stuff. Okay, Jane Birkin is Christine Redfern. I mean, and if you heard of the Birkin bag, it's based on Jane Birkin. We talked about her. We talked about Blowout when we talked about
Death on the Nile.
Death on the Nile.
Mm-hmm.
She is, and then her husband is played by Nicholas Clay, who unfortunately passed away very young to cancer. Maggie Smith as Daphne Castle, who runs the joint. Roddy McDowell is a character they brought in. So they took away the sporty gym teacher and they bring in Rex Brewster.
So instead of Emily Brewster, the spinster, this athletic spinster, we have Rex Brewster, who is sort of like he's sort of a gossip column-y kind of a guy, and he's working on a tell-all biography of our movie star, Arlena.
And he already got the advance for it, and so he already wrote it and printed it, and he just needs her to sign off on it. And she's like, "Nah, I don't want to sign off on it." And he's like, "I've already spent the advance. Like, you can't do this to me." Sylvia Miles is Myra Gardner. I just love her.
She's wonderful.
She's amazing. And James Mason is her husband, Odell Gardner.
Is James Mason supposed to be American in this, or is he? I'm confused. I'm a little confused. Or is he like a British guy who's lived in the United States for a long time? It's not that important,
Mason
but I wasn't sure.
Always sounds like James Mason to me.
Yeah.
So I don't.
But he's great.
Oh yeah. Dennis Quilley as Kenneth Marshall. Diana Rigg is Arlena, who is just so beautiful and so spectacular. Emily Hone as Linda Marshall, and then
Very
Richard.
good.
She's really good.
Yeah.
And then Richard Vernon as Fluid of the London Trojan Telegraph Insurance Company.
Yes.
So it opens with, a female hiker is found dead, and it's a couple that found them, or two different people found her, and Hercule's there for another reason, but they ask him, what do you think about what's going on here? And I think he says that she looks like she's been strangled. And they're also talking about a jewel that possibly that somebody wants to insure for a certain amount of money. And he's like, nope, that's a knockoff. That's not it. And then he goes on his vacation and he goes to the hotel. And Daphne Castle is our Maggie Smith. She runs the hotel.
So
with the
Daphne
red hair
Castle,
and the perm that they gave her, and
she's such a different character than what she played in Death on the Nile, which again, like I just want a mini series of Maggie Smith and Betty Davis's characters from Death on the Nile, just the two of them like traveling the world, being awful to each other. Maggie Smith's character is what do they call that? A smoosh together of Miss Darnley, the dressmaker in the book, and also the woman who owns the hotel, Miss Castle. And also Miss Castle, we learn, knows Arlena, that they both were actresses starting out in the salad days together, but Arlena, of course, became a big star, and Daphne ended up owning this hotel and struggling to make ends meet.
right. And so all these people are showing up for this vacation, and they all know who Arlena is. And then we have Myra and her husband, Odell. They have a script because they think that if she did agree to the script,
they had a show that she was in, a Broadway show, and she pulled out of it and broke her contract, and they lost their shirts. And so they are hoping to entice her to do another production so that they can get their money back. And so, in other words, they have a motive, which where the ones in the book before in the book don't really have a motive. The gardeners, they're just, again, more or less sort of comic relief. I mean, they could have done it, but they don't really have a reason. Here they do. They have a motive for at the very least maybe losing their patience with her to the point of strangling her. But yeah, so that's their deal with her. And then, of course, we have her husband and stepdaughter, who, she's very terrible. We see her being just dreadful to
awful to them.
In the book, Arlena, the movie star, is not as terrible as Diana Rigg is making her in this movie. You kind of feel sorry for Arlena in the book, because what is she doing with Patrick? Like, why is she messing with this guy? And we learn that he has swindled her out of all of her money. We just kind of think she's not good at picking men. Like, she's not good. Like, relationships is her weak point. Whereas here she is deliberately dreadful to everyone. And she's very much taking advantage of her position of being famous and being beautiful and glamorous. And she, when they're all down at dinner, she shows up last, looking just dressed way more than everybody else. Like, oh, sorry, I'm late, because she has to make an entrance everywhere she goes.
Should we play that?
Dreadful.
Can we play that clip? It's cattiness and cocktails, because
I love this.
Yeah,
this is just so much fun with just the two of them. I mean, they're just so we've got our Diana Rigg, Maggie Smith. What's better than this?
Nothing.
You enjoying it?
I would have one, but this was delicious if I could.
Oh, I can get you.
Thank you.
How about a cocktail, Monsieur Poirot?
Yeah.
White lady, a sidecar, main brace, or between the sheets?
No, if I could have a crème de cassis or a sirop de banane. Do you have banana syrup?
Certainly.
Oh, my. I'm the last to arrive.
Have a sausage, dear.
You must be famished having to wait all that time in your room. Have you met the Redferns? Christine and Patrick?
Arlena,
my favorite leading lady.
Why, if it isn't Odell and Myra? What on earth are you two doing here?
It's wonderful to see you, Arlena. We have a fabulous show for you.
Oh, it's a real humdinger, honey. And Odell insisted that we both come over here together to see you personally.
Well, it's very sweet of you, but I'm sort of retired, you know. This is my new audience. Have you met my husband?
How do you do? How do you do? We'll change your mind. You won't be able to resist this one. Keeler's mad to do it, but we're holding her off until you have a chance to look at it. And Can, he's done some of the best music you've ever heard.
Arlena, darling, it's simply sensational to see you again.
Hello, Rex.
Now, how do you do? I'm Kenneth Marshall.
Excuse me, I must talk to you, Arlena, darling.
Not now, Rexy Cool. Thank you. Cheers.
I think it tells you everything.
It's wonderful. I love that scene. We have the music is all Cole Porter music, but I love the way it's not hitting you over the head with like, this is the jazz age. It's very nice and subtle and always just kind of in the background and setting the tone. The costumes are spectacular. I love the gardeners' various costumes that they have. And, Myra's so like gauche, very loud American. And,
that was supposed to be Carol Channing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I can see that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Sylvia Miles though is doing a bang up job.
Sylvia Miles.
I love Sylvia Miles too. And setting it in the Adriatic is terrific. I think it works really super well. No reason not to. Again, it's a very Christie thing to have everybody isolated on a train, on a boat, this time on an island, and having the device, which is not in the book, I don't think, of the gun
right
going off at precisely noon every
So-
single time.
Linda has to wear her swim cap. When she wears her swim cap in the water, she can't hear. So there's a gun that goes off at noon every day. Or it's a cannon that goes off every day at noon. And so that's where we keep our time for that. But yeah.
So everybody knows when it's noon.
Exactly. So that, it's so funny to me. And also, like, once again, Jane Birkin is like so classy and so beautiful and so stylish and chic. And even when they're trying to make her look schlumpy with all that stuff, I still kind of
I know. Good luck.
I mean,
it's still Jane Birkin.
She's still Jane Birkin. I mean, it's just, but yes,
you see Diana Rigg is swanning around and Maggie Smith, and you're like, I'm sorry, but you did notice that's Jane Birkin.
Right.
She's no slouch.
Yeah. But it's really well done. It's beautiful. The locations are great. The only thing I would discover, I think, did she switch her bathing suit with
it seems like it.
I
agree.
I was like, how much money are they getting for this murder?
She's not swapping her swimsuit with a corpse in the book. And in fact, not even the hat. In the book, it's a duplicate hat. It's a hat that they just is just kind of around, that they have for people. And I also thought that was a little bit icky. And instead of a heroin smuggling ring, it's jewels. And and he's not swindled her. We don't have this story about Arlena having the fortune of her own from the millionaire guy and a dubious, she has this jewel that's what he's taking. It's about the jewel, this giant diamond, which is a little different than him swindling her kind of over time and about to be discovered. And that's why they kill her. So I like that a little better, actually. I think it's more plausible in the book. But how could you not enjoy Diana Rigg and Roddy McDowall, and I love having it be. I love Roddy McDowall, and I like the choice. Again, the choices are a little bit different in the book than in the film. Like Brewster also does like the gardeners in the book. She doesn't really have a motive. She's there. She's another guest that's there to kind of help us understand what goes on at this kind of health spa where they are. And the gardeners have no motive. So I like that in the movie, our Brewster character has a motive. The gardeners have a motive. Everybody has a motive, and that makes it very fun and moves it along. And I really like the girl that plays
Linda is
Linda.
much better in the film story than she is in the original novel. She has a lot more agency.
Mm-hmm.
She's smart. She's a smart kid.
Yeah, I think she's a good show. I really like the way that they wrote her. I even like her. I'm going to say that character over the version in the David Suchet one. Of in that one they make it a boy. His name is Lionel, not Linda, and he's very good. But I think the way that they wrote Linda in this version, I like the most. I think out of all the versions, I think hers is, and she's very good, and I like her. I just really believe her. I really believe her take on the relationship between Arlena and her father. I really believe like she feels like when Christine invites her to the beach, she's going to go swimming. Christine's going to be watercoloring, and she's excited that somebody took a notice of her and included her and invited her to do something fun, that she wants to do. So I really like the way that character was written. And yeah, it's not necessary to have it be. There's more characters in the book than in this film. In the book, there's a maid who hears the bath being drawn. I like the device of, we have the gardeners who now again have a motive. And Mr. Gardner mentions that at one point he goes to turn on the tap and there's no water. Why is somebody taking a bath in the middle of the day? Or why isn't the water running? Where's the staff? And we learned that, it's because Christine is washing off the makeup. But I think the choices are really, for the most part, I think they're really good. And it's a very entertaining movie. Like of course you want to go see this in the summertime. It's a perfect summer movie. And Peter Ustinov. What else? It's great. It's great. Really, really fun. And highly recommend. And I really enjoyed watching this version and the Suchet version back to back. It's totally different premises, different locations, because in the Suchet one, they are still in Britain.
Oh, okay.
And in the Suchet one, he's been sent to this resort by his doctor. Because he's been diagnosed with obesity. I know. He thinks his suits are shrinking.
There's also a great scene in the it's funny, at Ustinov in the other version, the 82 version, where at the very end Jane Birkin comes out and she's real Jane Birkin. And she's just so glamorous, and
it's really pretty. Yeah.
They're also so pretty.
The costumes, especially for her character, it's very, it's Jane Birkin. How do you hide? I mean, it's like Nicole Kidman looking mousy, and I mean, okay, but they do. I mean, considering they do a pretty good job.
Yeah,
I buy it. I think everyone is doing a good job. I really, really enjoyed it. Did I enjoy it as much as Death on the Nile? I did not.
No,
that to me was the more fun cast.
It didn't do as well, so they didn't do them for a few years. I mean, this happens with Agatha Christie movies. They kind of like pop up every once in a while, and then you get a bunch of them, because you need like a group of actors that all have charisma, and that could also like play characters that could be guilty and then not guilty, and there's always costuming, and you want to keep the mystery going. I mean, it's a lot of work to make it work.
Yeah. And I felt like, I don't know, I felt like they didn't spend as much on this as they did on the Nile.
Maybe.
Because the Nile looks expensive. The Nile, I mean, they're really there. You could tell, like, they're really there. They're really there. And anyway, but I still really enjoyed it. And I enjoy, and again, the book is not like her greatest, most groundbreaking mystery, Poirot mystery, but it's still a lot of fun, a great deal of fun. And yeah, but book or movie, which do you think you like better?
I have to say the movie because I liked seeing it all brought to life. I mean,
I think so too, because again, it's not her most groundbreaking book. She's
It's
using
not.
devices that we've seen before.
Right.
So what makes it, and although again, it's still very good, it's still super good. But you're right. I think the film takes it into some fun directions, and it's a good one to use for a Peter Ustinov Poirot. You know, like I can't stress enough, not my favorite. Kenneth Branagh's Poirot in this story, I don't see it. Albert Finney, I don't really see it. And the David Suchet one really works very well, but they've done some things to make it work really well that aren't necessarily in the book either. So yeah, I am also going to give it to the film. I think a lot of the production is really smart. I like the locations, the music, the costumes, the lighting is really good. Diana Rigg is just
Diana Rigg for me is like that sends it over the edge. I think she's just.
I like that choice to make her just heartless.
Yes.
Which she's not completely heartless in the book. She's just dumb. She's just making bad choices. She's flattered that this young man is after her, and she's just, she's playing it up for the attention. As opposed to just dangling, playing with him because she can, which is what Diana Rigg's Arlena is doing. But it's fun to see in a movie.
Yes, it is.
I like it. So that's our Evil Under the Sun. Which one are we going to do next?
You told us. You were telling me off the air. Is it Death on the Nile, or was it?
Oh, I was going to say, let's do Death on the Nile. We'll do the Kenneth Branagh one because it's a recent one. I think the most recent one is the Venice one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Death on the Nile is the second one, I think, of his Poirot. I've never seen it. And I love Death on the Nile. I love that book. I loved the movie that we saw last year. And again, we just recently discussed it. So all of us who've been following around, if you've been following along with us, then you also have seen it or read it recently as well. And so, yeah, let's do Death on the Nile, but the newest one.
Excellent. So please send us your suggestions for books and movies to cover. All those places I mentioned at the top of the show. Our email, once again, is bookversusmoviepodcast, spelled it all out, @gmail.com. If you'd like some stickers, send us your address. We'll drop them in the mail for you. And Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all my social media callouts are at She's Not Your Mama. And where can they find you? Oh, you said that already, didn't you?
No, I
you did. Oh, okay.
BrooklynFitChick.com. That's my website. I'm at BrooklynFitChick for Threads and Instagram. I'm at Brooklyn Margot for Blue Sky and for, I forget the other one. And my YouTube is at my name. Threads, baby. Brooklyn Margot. TikTok. No, it's at the TikTok. Thank you. And I'm at my name, Margot Donahue, on YouTube. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. We're going to play one more clip for you. And it's Peter Ustinov, deducing what happens in this story. We'll see you next week with Death on the Nile.
You ran down onto the beach, but Madame Arlena had disappeared.
Arlena! Where are you? I know you're here. I want to talk to you.
Be with you in a minute. Well, what is it?
Look here, Poirot, haven't we all heard just about enough of this blarney? Arlena was not murdered with a blunt instrument. She was strangled.
And if you would care to bend those beady Belgian eyes of yours on Christine's hands, you'll see that they're too small to have strangled anyone.
Yes, I quite agree. In fact, that was a major stumbling block to my theory.
Redfern's right. This knocks your theory out of court, Monsieur Poirot.
Oh, Del, please. You weren't even there. And I was. Remember, I saw her lying there strangled. Christine couldn't have done it.
Oh, I'm absolutely of your opinion, madame. In fact, she did not do it. The murder was committed by her husband, Patrick Redfern.
Oh, now you really are talking out of the top of your hat.
Oh, for God's sakes, Patrick couldn't have done it any more than his wife. Don't forget I was with him the whole time, between 11:30 and 12, when we came into the bay and saw her lying there.
That is the whole point, madame. One moderately well-made young woman is very much like another. 2 brown arms, 2 brown legs, and a little piece of bathing suit in between.